there's got to be a really easy way for us to remember how we're going to just really kill it this year. And I decided we're going to beat our goals, right? It's not enough to just hit them, right? We're going to beat them. And it stands for believe, set exact targets, have actions, and create the team. So we're going to beat our goals and really, really achieve them so that we can go through each step. And we're going to go through each one in a little bit more detail to make sure that you guys have some solid plans to ensure that this year goes the way you want it to. I know Dr. Straw mentioned, all these problems that we run into, and we all start off with our New Year's resolutions, right? And our New Year's goals, and welcome to 2024. We're going to have the best year ever, right? And unless we keep beating our goals every day, every week, every month, then of course you're going to fall short and you're going to run into problems and things. So my goal and our goal is to help you prevent running into these problems for the year. And then some good reference points for that as well. So let's jump into it. How are we going to solve these, Dr. Straw?
Well, let's first talk about belief, right? So when I say belief, you got to believe in what you're doing, right? And I talk to, chiropractors every day, doctors every day that are excited and really passionate in what they do. And so it's easy to get excited about certain things, but if you're working with us, obviously you're excited about helping people with neuropathy. And neuropathy is a condition that you really have to believe and understand that you can help these people. And sometimes I talk to docs, they're not as confident as they should be. And so with that, if you're not confident, how's your staff going to be confident? And so we want to make sure that you have all the tools available to help these patients get better, right? And we're going to talk a little bit specifically later about how you can even improve whatever you're doing, your outcomes right now. But it's one thing to believe the mission that you're on. Like, if you really sometimes have to remind yourself, Abby was telling me one of the things she does, like with a case manager, the person selling in the office, she really wants them to understand the devastating effects of peripheral neuropathy. And, we kind of take it for granted sometimes and go, yeah, it's numbness and tingling, they lose their balance. But you know what? Sometimes you got to look at the pictures, and she'll make staff members look at the pictures of somebody that has an ulcer, somebody that has amputations. The end game of neuropathy is not good. And sometimes we need to remind ourselves, we're seeing people most of the time before they have they've gone that far down the path. But if you've been doing this for any amount of time, you realize the devastating effects of neuropathy in their health and in their quality of life, right? It's like, when you realize if we just leave them to the demise of the healthcare system to take medication so they don't think about their degenerative condition and they just live with it, the outcomes are horrible. Whether it's losing the ability to live by themselves, to drive by a car. I remember years ago, we had we're doing like 4 talks a week for each office, and we had this one talk. It was at a Mimi's Cafe, I believe. And that's where it was at, Mimi's Cafe. And it was a reminder of the devastating effects of neuropathy. You kind of get, you get in a groove of doing your thing, and sometimes you just take it for granted. But we're setting up for this talk, and people were coming in, they're checking in, they're excited to get their free lunch, obviously, but actually to hear the information. But what it really made it come home for us is when this little old lady driving a car, not feeling the pedals, went right into the window, right into the restaurant with her car. And it was because she thought she was hitting the brake, and she was hitting the gas, trying to park in the handicap area, which is always the best parking, right at the front door. And she went crashing through it. So, sometimes we need to get reminded, and I'll never forget that. That right there, losing the ability to drive a car safely is that's such a big part of our lives. So anyways, the belief is huge. You got to believe in what you're doing. And after you believe, you got to constantly help your staff understand neuropathy too. And so one of the ways, like, what we do in our offices when we bring on a new staff member to help them understand, right? We're going to take them through just like they were a new patient. They have to go to a talk. They have to go through a whole new patient consultation, examination, report of findings, and even experience the treatment, because we want them to understand everything the patient's going through. And so that's a big way to build belief in your office, belief in your treatment and what you're doing. The other thing, and when I think of belief is so important, is these goals, right? We're talking about big audacious goals for 2024. My one friend calls them big, hairy, audacious goals, right? I mean, that's how they need to be, right? They need to be a little bit uncomfortable. And part of your job as the leader of your organization is to help you. Part of your job is selling yourself so you believe as best you can. And so what are the things that you are doing on a daily basis to help condition that goal inside your head to make you absolutely believe it? Because let's face it, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe that you can do this, it's really hard to get much traction, right? Because your actions are going to reflect your belief. And so what do you do to help train that into your own brain, in your own mind? And I mean, there's lots of things you can do. I want to share with you like what's really helps me, and not that you need to do this, but just to give you an example, like whatever my big, hairy, audacious goal is, I want to see it everywhere, right? So whether I put it on the mirror in my bathroom, whether I carry it in my pocket, this thing is all wrinkled up, but I got a flashcard, I put it in my pocket every day. So every day when I like go grab the keys out of my pocket multiple times a day, or my phone, I'll feel that flashcard in my pocket, and that note card, and it just reminds me of the goal, right? So you got to do things to implant that in you, and affirmations are really good. I mean, you got to program your mind. And so I just ask you, what is your thing? What are you doing to remind yourself of the goal, to program your mind, to condition yourself for success this year? Whatever it is, write it down, make it happen, and do it consistently. Abby, anything you want to add to the belief part?
Yeah, I would say on top of that, not only do you have to believe, right, but you have to speak it. You're not the only person in your office. You're not the only person that's working to achieve these goals. And we're going to talk about team at the end, so I'm not going to jump into it too much, but it has to be well known that you believe this, that you believe that this is the best option. This is the goals we're going to achieve this month. Not like, oh yeah, we're going to set some good goals and hopefully we'll get there and whatever, right? Or, some wishy-washy thing that people say. It really is the truth of, if you don't do anything else from this call, right, is like, how do you speak it into existence right now with your team, with each other, with your patients, with everything? Because I talk to these doctors sometimes, and I often find that they want to help people, but they don't truly believe that their treatment has the value that they should have a high exchange for it, right? And patients should pay for it and make this option. And they're not willing to sit there and say, hey, do this no matter what. If
That's
you
right.
need to, we've had patients sell their car because, well, they weren't driving anyway. They couldn't feel their feet, right? Like, you have to believe so strongly that you would be willing to, I say this in my interviews, and some people look at me crazy. I'd be willing to charge my grandparents double for our care, because I know, one, they're a pain in the ass. They're going to be tough patients, right? But they'll actually stick to it, and it's worth that type of value.
Great.
And I would have no problem doing that. And I believe so strongly that, I wouldn't give them a family discount. I would say, show up and you're paying double. And do you believe it that strongly? And are you willing to say that? So I want to say that to everybody, because, I do talk to doctors that they obviously believe in treating patients. They believe in helping people, but they're not willing to say it strong enough that everybody believes in their goal and their targets, right? And they're not willing to like push it forward and follow them into the thick of it. So we have to start with the belief. We're going to go into some numbers and some things and all the geeky stuff in a minute. But if you're not saying it out loud, you're not putting it out there, you know, for your friends, your family, your team, anybody, you know, they have to hear it. And it has to be really well known that you're confident we're going to be able to help every patient that you accept into care, and that you're confident that it's worth the value that you're charging. Or my guess is you probably are worth more, you're probably more valuable than you think. So that's what I wanted to add to it.
I like it. I like it. And so you have the big goal set, right? You have the goal you want to achieve this year, 2024. Then the next step is to break it down into monthly targets, right? Like, what do you have to do a month, right? And I know a lot of you guys already do that already, right? So you have a yearly goal and then you have a monthly goal. But I think where a lot of people miss out is not setting up weekly targets for themselves and their team, each team member. And it's so important that everybody has their individual target for the position they do in the office for each week. That really brings you together as a team, for everybody working cohesively together to hit that weekly target. And then you'll hit the monthly target. And then, you know, if you're a little bit short in that last week of the month, you guys are all pushing together to hit it. And it really gamifies the whole thing, right? It makes it fun. It makes it like, this is what we're going to do. And you set up rewards, and obviously you don't want to just have them, your team members, working by the hour. You want them to have them bought in and rewarded for hitting these high targets. And so that's really important. And Abby, you know, she consistently does is sets targets for each team member and helps them to accomplish it and gets them to buy into that. Abby, can you share a little bit about setting targets with your team?
Yeah, this is where I geek out completely. I'm gonna tag Tiff for help on getting this worksheet up, but the key is that everybody is well known. You have to have the targets have to be one set. If they don't have numbers and they don't have targets, you can't measure it. You don't know where you're going, right? And then two, well known. So for attending this call, you guys will actually get this after. If you need additional information, there's a contact on the top. So we will send this out to everybody following this call. But I like to break it down, like, okay, big goal. Like, let's look at our big 2024 goal, right? And then what date are we achieving this by? Some people like to try to hit it a little early so that they have some holiday cushion. I like to make sure that, you know, we're not running into the goal on the last month and hoping that we have like the best month ever. We want to make sure it's really broken apart, that we hit it across every day, every week, every month. So total goal, then monthly target, then weekly target. And then honestly, each of your team members need a daily target. Like, let's make it easy. Let's make it bite-sized chunks. And then what does it mean to break that down even more? So we have a goal worksheet to the other side, right? Like, what's your case average look like? How many enrollments actually achieve that goal? You know, once it becomes like simple, it becomes really easy to achieve. For example, our normal goal is 2 enrollments a day. 2 enrollments a day hits our goal. And it sounds so simple. And it's like, okay, good. That's easy, right? We don't have to go crazy, and we don't have to feel like we have this astronomical year target ahead of us, right? We can say, good, 2 enrollments a day hits our goal, good to go, right? We don't have to, like, it doesn't have to feel efforty. And then, okay, good. We didn't hit 2 enrollments today. We're going to hit 3 tomorrow, and then we're made up for it. We don't have to make up for it again at the last week of the month or the last, you know, few days, and go from there. So make sure you have it broken down. What's the revenue? Okay, what does that look like in new patients? What does that look like all the way through your funnel? And then it's easy. It should be very palatable for your team. Now, sometimes you got to get a little creative and make sure that your team is on board and you're figuring out, maybe I need to restructure how my marketing, you know, I'm not maybe investing enough in marketing to hit these numbers. Maybe I'm not getting enough referrals. and the team together can work on it and make sure it goes really great. And that's also part of what we help you with as well, is if you have a goal, awesome, you know, big, hairy, audacious goal ready to hit, and you need to structure your marketing a little differently to hit it because you're not getting enough new patients in the month, good. Let's take a look at it. That's part of the reason that we do this goal setting together. Because if, you know, we're doing one dinner and no other marketing for the month, then that's a far hope to hit that high number, right?
Yeah,
And
it's not a plan. It's a hope,
it's a
right?
hope, right? And you don't want that just hope. You really want to make sure that you have a solid plan everybody knows and they can measure it.
And you
The
know,
other part,
oh, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead, Ab.
I was gonna say the other part is when you're not measuring it, you're just hoping that we're gonna get there, right? We're gonna maybe, you know, it seems like we're having a good week. We had a few enrollments, I don't know, right? Like I think I'm doing okay. It's way easier than to be like, okay, here's where we're at, here's our target. Good. We're doing great, we're not doing great. We can work on it, or, you know, we're on pace. It's simple. It's logical. You don't have to go into feelings and all these weird things. You can just be like, okay, good. Good to go.
And you guys, when you're talking about marketing, obviously you guys are members because you guys love our marketing as well as everything else. But the marketing's so key because once you know your numbers, like I talk to new guys all the time, and it's a new concept for them to really track their marketing just to the dollar amount. And so it's like if you want to hit your target, let's say your goal, let's say you're doing 75 grand a month last year, and your goal is you want to go over $1 million a year, and you want to do 1.5 or whatever it is, you just got to figure out the math, right? And so if you're doing 75K a month and you're like, hey man, I want to do 100, and right now I do, you know, I do 2 talks a month and I'm making, you know, 50 grand out of those talks. So 25 grand a talk. It's like math it out. So if you now maybe you need to do 4 talks a month, and that will hit the number that you're trying to go. So break it down into like, just really know your numbers of how much your revenue is per talk if you're doing talks, or how much, you know, how much you're making per basically new patient if you're doing other types of marketing, Facebook and TV. But once you break it down and know the math, it becomes so much more easy for your brain to understand what you need to do. It just becomes math. It's not like there's no secret to it, right? You just got to do the math and figure out what you need to hit, and then spend the money. So like I was like, we're going over the office in Clearwater and St. Pete. They go, it's a group of staff members, and they go between 2 offices, but you know, they spend about 12% on marketing a month of their revenue, right? And that of the target they want to hit, but they have it mapped out. They have it clear cut. And in fact, a plug right now, just if you guys haven't heard about our boot camp, we're doing an in-office boot camp in this $2 million neuropathy office in Clearwater. And it's end of February to beginning of March. If you're not signed up for it, it's actually limited. There really is limited people we can have because it's in office. And you're going to get to see everything right there, see how we do every step of the way from the new patient to the treatment, and just how everybody works together. So it's super valuable to be hands-on like that. So if you're not in, I mean, there are some spots left. There's not a ton, but check it out. It just reach out to Abby or Tiffany if you guys want to lock that down. But that's coming quick, man. That's like, I don't know, is it 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away? So really fast.
It's
So,
soon.
soon.
So hopefully everybody shows up with their numbers and some targets achieved, but we could definitely help seeing it live as well. So
you know what? So that really adds to the belief, right? When you get in a group of people of other docs that are already doing this, they're maybe a few steps ahead of you, and you see how much success they're having. And then when you can add to that the environment, actually be an office that's doing it and meet all the people and the staff and everybody, dude, you come back and your mindset is way higher. Your belief is way higher. If you bring your key staff member with you, key team member, theirs belief is higher. I'm telling you, everybody that comes to these events ends up being our top producers. And I would like to say it's because all this great training, which obviously it helps, But a lot of it, hey man, I know what it is. It's like you go to the seminar, you see people doing it, your belief goes higher and your expectations rise. I mean, you got to get there, man. If you're really trying to hit these goals, get to that boot camp. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to pop in and say is what Dr. Straw said is so true. The clients who go to this boot camp with their team members, we immediately see the number of patients that they're enrolling every month double. Right out the gate, it doubles. And so this is like beginning of March boot camp. So we're talking wrapping up your first quarter of the year really strong, and, I say often imitated, never duplicated. There's a lot of conferences out there and it's a lot of rah, sis, boom, bah, and what have you. And it's great. I love to be motivated. It's wonderful to be motivated. But it's quite another to be motivated, but not have the practical and technical understanding or skill set or ability to apply things and drill and train with people who have done this so successfully for so long. So that is not to say you would not be motivated. I get motivated and I'm a part of it. So if you guys are not already signed up, it is worth every penny. And it's not wildly priced by any means, but it's absolutely worth every penny to be there.
Awesome. It's so true. So true. Okay. So the next thing is like, what are the specific actions that you need to achieve what you want, right? And actually, we're talking about it, right? One of the actions, go to the boot camp. One of the actions is really math out your marketing so you can hit your number. I mean, those are specific things you have to do. And those are very important. But one of the other actions, one of the overlooked ones, like whatever math you're doing right now, you're like, hey, I got to get this many new patients enrolled. Well, that math can drastically change if you take a look at your case fees. And what I find a lot of times is docs' headspace, they feel like they can't charge enough. They feel like it's expensive. Their care is expensive. And the thought of raising their fees from, I mean, some guys become new members and they're only like at $5,000. They're doing neuropathy when they join us, but they're only doing like $5,000 or $6,000 case fees. And the truth is, I mean, those are okay areas for guys to start, like baby steps. But I mean, the big producers, the guys that are really making an impact, their case fees for chiropractic only practice, not integrated, just chiropractic, they're $8,000-9,000, sometimes more just for their neuropathy program. And it might make you feel uncomfortable hearing a number like $8,000 or $9,000, but let me tell you, a patient might say to you, you're worried about the patient, say, hey, well, that's expensive, man. $8,000. A chiropractor charges me $50 an adjustment. Why? $8,000. That's expensive. And you know what you need to reply to them is, compared to what? And I mean, this is to you too. I hear it from clients telling me that's expensive. How do people afford it? My area, they can't afford it in my area. I hear that a lot too. And let me tell you, it's the mindset. It's the psychology of the business owner determines the level of their business, right? So that's actually a Tony Robbins quote, but basically you have to elevate your mindset. And the mindset of this is, if someone says this to you, maybe you say it to yourself, maybe your wife says it to you or your husband, wow, that's expensive. The reply is this. The reply is, compared to what, right? What's the alternative? I mean, if you can save this person from losing their independence, from not being able to drive a car, what's the cost of that? I mean, assisted living, depending on where you are at in the country, that can be anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 a month. Every month they got to come up with that just to get their groceries and get help to live and all the things they can't do because of their loss of independence. I mean, you got to remind yourself of what's at stake here. This isn't just, chronic pain. This is quality of life and losing their independence to drive a car, to live on their own. I mean, when you think about that, and like what Abby said earlier, she charged her grandparents double. I mean, it's that important. And let me tell you, the more you charge, the more you charge them, the more committed they are because they're invested, right? And so if once they, the more they pay, the more they pay attention, and they're going to follow your guidelines because they don't want to blow this investment. So really take a look at your case fees. Are you really where you need to be? And I'll challenge you too. If you think you're in a bad area, we have some of the biggest producing offices in quote bad areas, because when it becomes an issue like that, when they understand it, they've gone through the enrollment process, the education process, they put that responsibility on themselves to invest in their future, in their health. And don't be shy about getting paid for what you're worth, because you're the one that's brave enough to reach out to them, to market to them, to go against the grain, to go against what their primary care physician said, that there's nothing they can do, and offer them hope. But if you're going to offer them hope, you got to give them the best care possible. And so don't scrimp when it comes to giving care recommendations, and especially home care. There's a couple things. You want to make it effective. I mean, talking about home care, you want to make it effective, the most effective they can have, but you want the minimal effective dose, meaning you do not want to burden these people with sitting at home and treating themselves for 3 hours a day and making it complicated. You want to make it simple for them, but you want to make it as effective as possible. And so one of the things that we realized through the years is, hey, we're sending them home with we send them, obviously, the program, right? We send them home with, the eating plan, so they make right dietary choices, the supplementation, which is really important. It's foundational, right? And the nutrition, but the treatment is vital. And once we went from, years ago, we were doing just in-office visits and we had good results. But when we put that on a home care program, we added home care to that, and they could do it daily at home, their outcomes are even better, right? And so now it is like, what do you send them home for optimal results? Well, the foundation of everything is increased blood flow, angiogenesis. So we're sending them home with the bedrock light, right? And now that we have the PEMF lights coming online now, that's going to even make it even more powerful, because it's going to have electromagnetic field therapy in it with the light therapy. So increased angiogenesis, increased blood flow. But the truth is, if we want the most outcome, like why are we scrimping, right? So why don't we, instead of sending them home with one light where they have to sit in a chair for, if the new PMF light is 30 minutes long, they're going to be in the chair for an hour every day just doing that. And patients started coming to us like, hey, let me get a second light. Let me do it. Time's valuable. I don't want to sit here all day in the chair. So you know what? We started giving out 2 lights to the patients, and it made it even better. Their outcomes are better. Their compliance is better. And honestly, your profit's better, right? So you're going to build that in to your care plan, and they're going to invest in themselves. So they're going to get the benefit from it, and they're going to pay you for it. And so you're going to make a little bit more on each patient, which is great. And then I know a lot of you guys out there do different modalities on top of that. And let me tell you, you want to keep it simple, right? You want to keep it effective. And the most effective thing I see out there right now is the Nerve Plate. Nerve Plate's a company that has taken the time to design a vibration platform that works on the large fiber nerves of the body. And actually, I think the owner is on the call right now. I can't see on my thing. Jeff Maselli, you out there? If he is, if you guys can unmute him. Jeff, thanks for joining us, Jeff. I'd just like you to take just a couple short overview of the Nerve Plate, and why is it different? Why do you think it's better than the other options out there for home treatment?
So, first of all, great information on the call. I've been listening the whole time, and I do want to reiterate something that you said. I have people that buy a lot of different a lot of different doctors that buy a lot of nerve plates from me on a monthly basis, and I've seen some evolutions in some of the doctors over time, and it's pretty interesting to see on their case fees and kind of how much they charge. And it's interesting because I pick their brain. I want to know what's going on. I'll get in calls with them and just kind of chat. But I see guys that used to charge, like you said, like $6,000. Now they're charging $10,000, right? And the only thing that changed was their mindset. It's purely the doctor's mindset. It's not the patient's. The patients don't have a money problem. If the doctor has a money problem, there's going to be a money problem, right? So I wanted to touch on that point because I thought that was really interesting what you were saying. And I was like, that really resonates too, because I had a practice you know, myself, a neuropathy practice, a pretty good size one, you know that, Phil. And, you know, that's where the nerve plate was really born. And it was born because I was trying to help my patients. And I was, at the time, I was using that Medi foot rub. Do you remember those things, the green ones?
Mhm.
Right. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but then they go up to 11. You could turn them up to 11, like the original ones, which I thought was really funny because that was like a Spinal Tap movie thing for those people who are old enough to remember that. But you know, I used to use that vibration plate, and I'd give it to all the patients to take home, that Medi foot rub. And I didn't know anything about vibration. And I started doing some research on it. And then what I started learning was it wasn't really doing anything. It was just another piece of equipment for them to take home. And, you know, they were paying for it. And we weren't really making any money off of it because you could buy them online. So it really wasn't beneficial to the patient or to the office. So, you know, I needed to find something I wanted to replace that with. And that's where the nerve plate came from. Started really researching stuff and learning a lot about it, and then made some prototypes. And my brother's an engineer. My father worked in the government for a long time. He's like certified to work on the NASA space shuttle when there was one, and all kinds of stuff. So it was easy to tap those guys and get them to help me, because my dad was in a lot of manufacturing, right? Boeing, Lockheed Martin, stuff like that, aerospace stuff. So it was easy for me to hey guys, I need something that does this. How can you help me? And they were like, oh, that's easy. And you know, made prototypes, and then we tested it in the clinic, and we started seeing some fantastic results. And these were even with the early prototypes, which are very different than what we have now. But I started to wonder, why are we getting results with this device? Like, what, this thing is unique. I know it's different, but at the time I was still not convinced that it was something that was, you know, really necessary for all my patients. But over time it proved itself. And then eventually, you know, we were giving it to all the patients, and all the patients were using it. And then I started having other doctors ask me, hey, can I buy that for my patients? I was like, I never really thought about that. But, and then from there, it just kind of turned into a business. And that's really the story of nerve plate and kind of where it came from. But it is different. It is unique. And you said you wanted to, or you asked me kind of what is it that makes it different. And there's a few things that make it different, because there's a lot of vibration plates on the market, and that's not really what this is. I mean, it is and it isn't. You need to stimulate, when you want to do vibration, there's going to be two different things that you're going to go one or two directions, right? You're either going to stimulate like lymphatics and kind of just shake the foot. That's what most of your vibration plates out there will do. Some of the bigger ones that you see in the gyms, they're pretty strong. It's not the strength of the vibration that's key. It's the frequency. So with the nerve plate, it's more than 100 hertz. It's actually in the mid 100s, the range, right? And we have our patent pending on this for a portable device. Nobody else will be able to make anything. Nobody does make anything like it currently, but nobody will after about another 6 months. We'll hold the patent on that. And the reason why we can patent it is because it stimulates different nerve fibers. So when you have a low frequency vibration, like under 100 hertz, which like the Medi foot rub, that one, if you do the calculations on it, it's 40, I think it was 44 hertz was the max. And that's one of the faster ones you'll find, right? So most of them are around 20 to 30 hertz. This is not RPM, this is hertz. They're very different. So a tuning fork that you'll test the patients with, and this is where I got the idea from, because we used to test the patients, right, with a 128 hertz tuning fork. And then we're like, you know, we're testing them at 128, but then we're treating them at like 30 or 20 or 40. And it didn't make a lot of sense, right? So when we made the nerve plate, we started seeing different things. We started seeing the patient's feet change color. We started seeing their balance getting better, and there's only sitting down and using it. They can stand on it, but most of them we wouldn't let them. And one of the key things that we found was the frequency was key. Also intermittent vibration. Am I able to share my screen or no?
Probably not, Jeff.
No. Let me see.
You are.
Oh, great. So can we see the screen? Yeah. So this is the nerve plate website. When you go here, and I'm not going to take long, I'm just going to spend a minute or two and just touch on this and then move on, because I have a special offer for people who want to get started with them. A really sweet deal. So the research right here, these articles, these are links. These are PubMed articles. This one just shows the difference in vibration in blood flow in the feet, right? And then this one, and these are pertaining to people with neuropathy and diabetes, right? This one shows the intermittent. When you click on it, these are abstracts. They're pretty easy to show or to read. And this one, the intermittent one, was interesting because what they found was a significant difference in outcome when the vibration was intermittent. And that's why the nerve plate will turn itself on and off every 30 seconds. So it makes sure that the nerve, first of all, doesn't fatigue, right? And second of all, that the brain and the nervous system don't adjust to the stimulation, just like you would adjust to hot water, put your finger in it and it doesn't feel hot after a little bit, you know, or you put tight socks on in the morning and after 45, 50 seconds, they don't feel tight anymore. That's your brain ignoring the stimulation, and we don't want that. So that's why it works intermittently. And I'm not aware of any other device that does that. This one right here, this research article, it just shows like, you know, how effective it was on diabetic neuropathy. And one of these articles, this one, it talks about the high frequency vibration being the key. And they did tests on lower frequency vibration, like I think it was 20 hertz, 30 hertz, something like that. And then higher frequency above 100. And it was a drastic difference in the outcomes. And this is, you know, these are PubMed articles, so you guys can read those in your own time and kind of peruse through them. But the big thing is for me, right? And you talked about it earlier, Phil, is the patient's compliance is really important, right? If you give them things that are really difficult to use or to do, or take a really, really long time, right? They just don't do them. And they'll lie to you, you know, because they're embarrassed, and they'll say that they do them, but they won't, right? And then they won't get as much better, or they won't increase, you know, they won't improve like they should. And then they come back to you and go, hey, your program didn't work as well as you said, or I'm disappointed, or I'm not happy. And it's like, yeah, but did you do it? They didn't do everything they should have done, right? And it's our job as the clinicians, right? Or you know, the doctors, it's our job to give them something that's easy for them to do. And that was really one of the main things with nerve plate was, you know, we're going to give them something that's easy, right? They could take it, they stick it in front of their TV and their couch, they stick their bare feet on it, they turn it on, they're sitting on their couch and they watch TV at night for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. It's that easy. And that's all they have to do.
It's not inconvenient. You're not hooking up a bunch of wires and dealing with.
No. And what we found is compliance goes up the easier you make it for them, right? When you have them using, like, and nothing against the rebuilder, right? But a lot of guys use that. And I have a lot of docs that switched away from the rebuilder and they use nerve plate, even though it's very different technology. They're not the same. They just found it more convenient, you know, and easier for the patient. Because
Jeff, I think
the water, all the other stuff.
I'm excited about it, and I'm excited that, you know, you're on here sharing that, because again, we want the best treatment outcomes for our patients, and we want to make it, again, compliance easy, and we also want to build a case fee, so it's all wraps up into one. And what's great I like about the nerve plate, you can't buy it anywhere else. It's like the bed lights, you can only get it online. Jeff, you had a special for members. What, real quickly, we got to wrap this up, and
no problem.
Go ahead and give your offer.
Yeah. So for those of you guys out there that are like, hey, you know, I've heard about the nerve plate. Yep. I saw it in chiroeconomics. Yeah. Like my friends use it. You know, you can just go straight to our website, add it to your cart. At the end, there's a coupon box that you put like a wholesale code in, and you apply the code, and it takes the price from $2,000 down to $427. That's the wholesale doctor pricing. And the code that you'll use is BIZBOOM, BIZBOOM, right? So that's normal everyday wholesale pricing. But for the guys on this call that are like, man, I really want to check this thing out, I've never heard of it before, it's the first time I've seen it, but sounds really cool. You guys, if you text or send a message to either Tiffany or Abby and just let them know that you want one, I have 8 that I can give away, right? So first come, first serve. Send a message to Tiffany or Abby. You'll get a free one. We'll send it to you. You can play with it, check it out, see how it really works. I know you'll be impressed with it when you get your hands on it, and it's definitely different than what's out there. And you cannot get these things anywhere, like Phil said, except on my website, because I am the manufacturer. I have employees on assembly lines. We make these things made in the USA. We stand by the quality of them. We ship hundreds of these things a month. We rarely ever get back one. So we stand by this product, we make it, and we control where it's distributed from. The patients will not go around you. They can't get it anywhere. So we're very proud of that.
Jeff, thanks so much for sharing your technology with us and giving that great offer for our clients. And
Yeah,
really
thanks for having me.
Again, guys, this is all about maximizing our care and maximizing our case fee, right? It's a win-win. All right. So let reorientate where we're at, guys. We have some time left here. We want to finish this call strong. And so back to Abby's acronym, beat our goals. We talked about belief, how to increase belief in yourself and your team. E is for exact targets, have an exact weekly and monthly target so you hit that year-end goal. And then the actions. We started talking about the actions, what we need to do. How do we need to adjust our marketing plan? How do we need to, increase our case fees? And how do we need to, the super important last part is T for team. You can't do this alone, guys. You need a team, right? So Abby's going to take us through and talk about exactly how to create an awesome team and how to get everybody functioning at their highest level of ability. Go for it, Abby.
So in the action of creating a team, there's something really key that has to be in. And I see it all the time. It happens across all offices, successful, not successful, is we put in training. We do awesome, right? We're like, okay, training schedule. We got this. I'm going to teach you something new. I'm going to, we're going to review your script. We're going to review this section or whatever, right? We're going to review it. And then we do it once. Great. They do awesome. Life's going well for a little while. And then I get busy, right? Life gets busy. We start seeing more patients. The schedule's filling up because we trained on something that went well, whatever, right? And then all of a sudden, a couple months later, you go back to check on that area and you go, oh, what happened, right? And something changed. It's like that game that we all played as kids, right? The telephone. I'm like, okay, so here's the script we're going to do forever and ever on a cancellation, right? If somebody calls and tries to cancel their appointment, we're just going to simply go over, oh, wow, what's happening, and go through this script. And you train it and it goes really awesome and your show rate goes up. And then a few months later, you're like, oh, show rate's not where it was. Let me go check on that. And then all of a sudden, everything's changed. And now we're saying different things and we've made up new solutions. And it's not because you have a bad teammate there, right? It's because your actions haven't stayed in. That successful action you just put in fell out and you went and focused on this other thing over here. And so one of the really key steps in building your team, which goes in your actions, is what are your regular training schedules? What are your regular meeting schedules? What do you have an agenda that you go through? We have, for example, my check sheet that I do every week has a 6-week training schedule that we rotate the same thing every 6 weeks. That's about the time it normally starts falling out, right? So week 1, I'm with the front desk checking, training on confirmations. Week 2, I'm on cancellation calls. Week 3, whatever it goes through. And then I'm like, okay, back to week 1 again. We're back on confirmations again. And it is so key. I fully admit I have done this, that you just don't let this fall out. And it's one of those actions that seems so simple. And we all talk about it and you're like, yeah, totally got it. Right. And then when I talk to an office and we find out, oh, they're not quite where they want to be, it's normally the first thing that's happened is somewhere training has not stayed in. So on your action steps, on your worksheet that you'll be receiving, right? Do you have action steps on training each area? Do you have action steps on a weekly team meeting? Are you building your team together? Are you making sure they're all on board? As team members, I've been here 13 years now, right? As a front desk, sometimes you just need to be aware of what's going on so that you can fully push the agenda forward, right? You can help more patients. Sometimes, and honestly, it's one of the biggest things with building your team. Do they understand why the targets are what they are? What does that mean in patients that we're helping? What does that mean in future growth for the business or, services we can add or whatever the goals that this ends up in, right? So how are you building your team? How are you creating that team that helps this this goal be achieved, right? This target? Are they willing to, jump in and help with these games? And are they excited to help people? And then do they believe in the purpose of your office and what you're doing? I'll tell you, I like to confess on these calls if you guys haven't noticed. I started off in, we were in a chiropractic office before we got into nerve damage, and we did functional medicine for back pain. And honestly, I knew so when I started. I was like, okay, I got it. We're going to do some things to help their backs. Cool. And when people would call in and ask me about, try to move their appointments or cancel or whatever, I was the nicest customer service rep of all time. I absolutely had no problem letting them cancel. I just wanted to be so nice to them. And I like, yeah, no problem. See you next month, whatever, right? And then we were sitting down in our meeting and we really discussed the alternatives to what their treatment was. And I sat and I actually saw, this was back in the day, but I saw, we went over x-rays of back patients that had surgeries and the outcomes of those. And I actually finally realized, and it took me this simple meeting, but it was something that was kept in and did so well, why it was so important that I can't let somebody cancel this appointment. Why it was so important I can't be the nicest person in the world and saying, no problem, see you soon on these calls. And it's the same thing you have to do for all your team members, so they truly believe on what you're training them. If somebody had come in and told me, hey, you're doing bad and you're letting people cancel, I'd obviously want to do better, but I just wouldn't understand and be willing to say whatever it took, right? Do whatever it took to help that person come in the door. So you basically restart beating your goals with doing this with your team. They have to believe just as hard as you do that these are going to be achieved, that your purpose in your clinic, your purpose in your treatment is what the patients need. No matter what, it is the best option for them. I don't care if some Joe Schmo's up the road doing the exact same thing. Our clinic's the best. And I'm unwilling to let anybody stand in our way over this. And it's the belief set. It starts with how your office speaks to each other. As a team, what are you creating by what you say? The owners on this call, the leaders, the doctors on this call, you guys will lead the charge on this. If you're saying anything that would allow some doubt, it will take a mile for your team, and they will take it and say, oh yeah, that's not going to happen. We don't actually help people with XYZ. If you even say the most simple thing. So how you treat this belief system is really key, right? I'll give you guys an example. We would never say this, but we'll say, I heard a doctor once upon a time say, yeah, people with fibromyalgia, they're just helpless. They're never happy with their success. We might as well just move on. You know what that team started doing? They started screening every single person and asking them if they had fibromyalgia and kicking them out the door.
I'm laughing. I'm like, you know who you are. And then it's fibromyalgia. Then it's this other condition. Then it's people with this particular insurance or live in the zip code. Like, stop it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So as a team, you guys have to fully believe. We're fully believing moving forward. It doesn't matter. You set your criteria and we are helping these patients and we can help them. And that's the team you have to create. And if you don't have a team that's being actively trained, part of your actions, right? Actively trained, actively worked on their belief system. Why are they there? What's their purpose? Are they there to help? Do they truly believe that the treatment improves patients and that they're on board? with making this happen, then you're just going to continuously run against a wall. If they're not on board and feeling the same way you do about helping these patients and willing to make it happen no matter what. I'll tell you that change in my belief, I would sit on the phone with somebody trying to cancel and literally ask them the most uncomfortable questions about what they were doing that day and why weren't they coming in and what's your schedule. And I like, most people would be like, oh wow, you're really nosy. I'd be like, yeah, I care. I care enough to ask them, why are you so busy that you don't want to take care of your health? And some people would be like, oh, yes, absolutely. That is the belief that you have set. And then they have to have their exact targets too, right? They're going to beat these goals with you. So what are their exact targets? What are their exact actions? I'll give you a hint. If they have a check sheet, it normally helps. If you don't have a check sheet and you don't have your actions in place, we can say we know what we're doing, right? I'll tell you right now, if I didn't have a check sheet, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing a lot of my job for a long time, right? But things fall out. Silly things. I'll give you guys another silly example. Checking the phone lines in the morning is one of our check sheet items. Calling the phone from your cell phone, making sure it works. If that drops out, maybe you'll get away with it for a while until one day all of a sudden the phone's not ringing. And what happened? And why wasn't this caught? And a silly item, right, as an action that I probably do most of the time, right? But if you have this laid out for your team, you have it laid out for yourself, it leads you on a path of really achieving your goals. And
Awesome.
then you got to continue speaking it to existence, which we're going to help you do.
And guys, a lot of these things Abby's talking about, you might want more help with that. And depending on your membership level, or even if you are maybe not a member, I mean, that's why I get involved. I mean, we're beyond just marketing. We want to help you in all these areas. And again, can't stress the boot camp enough. We cover all this stuff in detail. So I'm excited you guys are on the call with us. I really appreciate it. And you know what, however you do your goal, I'd say write that thing down, put it in your pocket, look at it every day. It's going to help you get there that much quicker. And man, you guys are going to have a great year. Just implement and take massive action. It's going to be great. I did get a reach out. Some guys on the call right now that aren't members yet that want to learn more. Tiffany's going to post my Calendly link. I'm doing breakthrough calls for potential clients that want to have a practice breakthrough session with me. We'll get on the phone. We'll get into the details and see if it's a good fit for you. Anyways, Tiffany will post that, get that out to you. And you can just sign up on my link and book a call with me, and we'll see if we can help you. Anyways, anything else, Abby, we good?
I'm so excited to hear the wins and everything when everybody shows up at boot camp, because I miss all of you so much. I want to see you in person and really help your practices.
All right. Okay. We'll talk to you guys. See you soon.
Thanks for joining.
Bye-bye.